Part 107. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1087. After the Merlot Conference, the Merlot Heavenly Court quickly completed the formation of the Holy Expeditionary Force. 15 heavenly blades and 150,000 angel legions were assembled. In order to be able to better fight against the large group of triangles, Mellow Heaven reduced the number of angel legions carried by each Skyblade unit and increased the number of Skyblade battleships. This time, the leaders of the Merlot Heavenly Expedition were all young, namely Yan and Leng, as well as some newly promoted god-level angels. They will hone their blades and temper their will in this war until they become angel warriors comparable to their predecessors. Binghua herself has also decided to come to the Pocket Nebula in the near future. At that time, she will bring the Purifier Army and part of the fleet of the Justice World. After the Angel Civilization dispatched the Expeditionary Legion, other civilizations also sent their already formed fleets to the Boker Nebula. For a time, the fleets and armies of all civilizations in the Pocket Nebula gathered together. As the hosts, the Hayden Civilization and Thane Civilization would bear part of the logistical supplies. Just as the coalition forces arrived at the Pocket Nebula, a large group of triangles appeared around the Pocket Nebula, paying no attention to the coalition forces in the known universe. Triangular-shaped black creatures were wandering through the starry sky, and the approaching Pocket Nebula civilization fighter planes exploded in strange ways. The attacks of several small reconnaissance ships suddenly scattered into countless particles when they approached the triangular creature. Faced with such a strange situation, the reconnaissance troops sent by the Park Nebula panicked and asked for help from the headquarters. The Hayden and Thane civilizations in the Pocket Nebula have long received some information about triangular organisms from angels, and understand that this should be the magnetic field ability that triangular entities rely on most. Without this information, Hayden and Thane would probably have deep doubts about their own strength, but now they understand how to break the triangle's defense method. A very large fleet group composed of several conventional fleets of the Hayden civilization laid an ambush in advance on the forward route of the triangle. Facing the main guns of the large battleship, the large group of triangles finally suffered casualties for the first time. The giant triangle creatures at the front were directly bombarded by ultra-long-range beam weapons and penetrated their bodies. It can be said that you will die if you touch it, and you will die if you touch it. Facing the mortal enemy of living organisms, the ultra-high temperature attached to the energy weapon and the triangle that cannot deflect the attack with a magnetic field have no possibility of contending. But the triangle is considered by Binghua to be the enemy of the known universe. If it had only this ability, Merlot Heavenly Court would have sent troops to the Edge Star Field and wiped it out with the force of thunder. The large group of triangles that encountered long-range bombing quickly dispersed under the command of the leader of the group, forming small settlements of triangles that quickly approached the fleet group of Hayden civilization like scattered schools of fish in the ocean. Faced with such a situation, the commander of the fleet group directly ordered the fleet to retreat, fighting while retreating. But the most basic existence of triangular organisms, ordinary triangular organisms that have evolved giant bodies for interstellar navigation, has a greatly increased flight speed through some unknown principle. It is somewhat similar to jump navigation, and it quickly approaches the fleet of the Hayden civilization. Fight back! Fight back! Seeing this, the captain of the Hayden civilization fleet shouted in the communication, and at the same time launched the space fighters carried by each battleship to block it. After chasing and escaping, although the various settlements in the triangle suffered some casualties, they also successfully attached themselves to the fleet group of Hayden civilization. Under close hand-to-hand combat, the Hayden civilization finally saw the power of the triangular creatures. The indestructible mental impact of the 3 to 4 meter long elite triangular warriors hidden among the giant triangular creatures shocked a large number of ordinary people. Hayden's civilized pilot is brain dead. This terrifying large-scale attack capability makes it impossible for the conventional army of Hayden civilization to compete with the triangular creatures, and can only rely on battleships to protect itself. For large battleships, triangular creatures also have ways to destroy them. Under the ability to operate magnetic fields, the energy shield of the battleship will become extremely unstable. As more and more triangular creatures affected the battleship's shield, the battleship shield of Hayden's civilization finally could not withstand the overload and disappeared. The next moment, the elite warriors of the triangle quickly approached the battleship, emitting a swirling magnetic field wave, distorting the battleship's armor and armament, and quickly destroying the integrity of the battleship. Slowly, the counter-attack force of the huge battleship was gradually removed, and the hull became tattered. Finally, under the destruction of the triangle, the battleship engine stalled, and all the crew inside were sealed inside the battleship that had turned into a coffin, desperately waiting for death. Listening to the desperate cries of his compatriots in the communication, the commander of the Hayden civilized fleet reluctantly made the decision to force a jump. And this means that the remaining warships not only have to risk the ship being destroyed, but they also have to abandon their companions who are now surrounded by the triangle. But this is the best way to preserve the strength of the fleet group at this moment. If all are lost here, the Hayden civilization will no longer be able to assemble a fleet of this size in a short time. The above is how the Hayden civilization and the triangular creatures fought for the first time. I believe you already have some basic understanding of triangles, rather than just some simple information. Yan sat at the main seat in the conference room and turned off the projection. He looked around at the dignified expressions of representatives of various civilizations sitting here and nodded secretly with satisfaction. It seemed that his efforts had not been in vain. Okay, everyone, don't worry too much. The mental blow of the triangle is extremely effective on ordinary people, but it can be tolerated by super soldiers for the time being, so we still have a chance to win. Yan showed a smile and encouraged all the representatives of civilization present. Besides, with our angels here, it's hard to lose. Angel Yan pointed at himself and said proudly, but this made most of the civilizations present relax their frowns a little, because the angel civilization is their backbone. Seeing that the state of the representatives of all civilizations present had recovered, Yan finally expressed his intention to hold this meeting. According to intelligence, the large group of triangles has approached the periphery of the Pocket Nebula. There happens to be a post-nuclear civilization on the path of the Triangle Swarm, and they have already requested help from the coalition forces. Since we are here to expel the triangle creatures, we cannot ignore their request for help. Therefore, we have to stop the swarm of triangles from moving forward and tell them that there is no way forward for you. Either die or go back. Angel Yan stood up and slapped his palm on the conference table, leaving a deep palm print. He said with a proud expression, which immediately aroused the recognition of the strong representatives of various civilizations present. He felt that the angel civilization was more confident than them. Yan left the conference room, leaning against the door and listening. Leng said, "I will give you the right to formulate strategies. I hope you can live up to my trust and not lead the sisters to death." Angel Yan paused upon hearing the sound, and looked back with a look full of strong confidence. "Don't worry, I understand the responsibility I bear. But sometimes we need a clear goal when fighting, otherwise we will fall into confusion. So I haven't changed, I'm still the same person who cherishes the lives of my sisters." After the words fell, Yan continued to move forward, and her back turned around the corner and disappeared from Leng's sight. Leng does not reject Yan's behavior in her heart, because she also agrees with the decision to protect the post-nuclear civilization. Although she no longer fights for justice, the belief in her heart has not been completely abandoned by her. As Yan, the temporary commander of the Angel Expeditionary Force, formulated a clear strategy, the coalition forces also began to take action. As the absolute main force, the Angel Expeditionary Force will naturally settle in the post-nuclear civilization that lies across the path of the Triangle Swarm, as will the elites of the coalition forces. Ordinary troops will cooperate with the Hayden civilization, Thane civilization, and the Langsians to intercept and eliminate the small groups of triangular creatures that have penetrated the defense line. When everything was ready, the large group of triangles finally arrived as promised, and Yan, as the Angel commander, naturally took command. According to the battle data brought back by the Hayden civilization desperately, Yan used the Skyblade as a fire support unit and a Fortress Fulcrum to launch the most violent bombing of the triangular group. Regarding the long-range strike capabilities of the Kamigawa civilization, the Triangle Swarm, after evaporating nearly one-third of its compatriots, once again divided into countless settlements to spread the strike intensity of the Skyblade. At this time, other civilizations took action. Although their troops were a little underwhelming in front of the large group of triangles, they were still confident in dealing with the small settlements formed by hundreds of triangles. In an instant, the previously silent universe turned into a noisy battlefield, with lives passing away every moment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1088. This is the general strategy set by Yan. Currently, the coalition forces have the advantage in strength, and the numerous large groups in the triangle have not gathered close to the pocket nebula. Therefore, it is a good time to separate and annihilate the large groups that arrive first. The reason why Binghua didn't let Merlot Heaven fight against the mottled Blue Empire alone was because of the large group of triangles. In fact, Angel civilization does not pay attention to a single large group, but according to the intelligence collected, more than 20 large groups of triangles have been observed. Nearly 10 of them are heading towards the Pocket Nebula, and 3 are targeting the Nadar system. The remaining large groups are mostly in edge systems and seem to be transforming the planets they have already occupied. As for the Kamigawa civilization on the planet occupied by the Triangle, I am afraid that it is in danger. Binghua had seen too many such things. Although those civilizations were not related to her, she felt a little unhappy. Therefore, Binghua stood on his own biological civilization force field in the Divine River body and had no good impressions of the mottled Blue Empire. In this angel expedition, Binghua authorized Yan and Leng to destroy living planets when necessary. At the same time, after the coalition forces arrived in the Burke Nebula, Binghua lifted the ban on weapons of mass destruction in the known universe in the name of the King of Angels. Although this ban existed in name only when the Order of Justice was ravaged by the Tiangong group, due to the angelic civilization, most civilizations in the known universe only dared to use it secretly. Now that the ban has been lifted, all civilizations are overjoyed and have taken out their sealed dark matter bombs, starkiller bombs, and other types of weapons of mass destruction. In this blockade, the coalition forces did not use weapons of mass destruction, because the work was done by the Skyblade. As a celestial warship, its destructive power is extremely powerful every time it is charged, and the triangular creatures cannot attack it at all. Resistance. After several days of encirclement and suppression, the first large group of triangularoids approaching the Pocket Nebula was annihilated by the coalition forces without any surprise. Only a very small number of triangularoids broke into pieces and escaped from the encirclement. After this battle, the morale of the coalition forces was greatly shaken, thinking that the extremely powerful triangular creature blown by the angel was just that. But Yan, who knew the real situation, knew that the reason why this annihilation battle was fought so easily was because he had an absolute advantage in military strength. And I believe that the triangle creatures will not make mistakes like this one, because based on the intelligence and predictions provided by Kesha's treasure house of sacred knowledge, the large group of triangles that were originally lagging behind accelerated their approach to the Pocket Nebula. There were more than 5 incoming triangle groups in this batch, and there were as many as 7. In this regard, Yan could only divide part of his troops to slow down the footsteps of some large groups of triangles, and then take the opportunity to find a large group to fight to death. This kind of tactics was learned from Nishang when he was fighting against the Tiangong group, and he often achieved good results in wars. Before the war with the Tiangong group, Yan only knew how to use superior force to cut up the opponent's formation and then destroy it, or directly use the powerful combat power of the Angel Legion to forcefully break the opponent's formation and then destroy it. But in the war with the male angels, Yan found that the tactics he was accustomed to using in the past were not ideal. Although he could break through the formation of the Tiangong battle angels, his own side would also suffer heavy casualties. Queen, this is the latest battle report from the Pocket Nebula. Yan commanded the coalition forces to block the footsteps of the large group of triangles. Currently, both sides are in a state of anxiety. Although the Angel Legion suffered some losses, it was already minor compared to the results achieved. Jingnan came to report, because Binghua has been stationed in Merlot Heaven recently, so Jingnan also rushed over to handle some chores for Binghua. Regarding her assistant officer, regardless of the relationship between the two, the fact that Jingnan had assisted Binghua for thousands of years was enough to make her qualified for this position. For some minor matters, Jingnan, who has a good understanding of Binghua's character, can handle it for Binghua, so Binghua can save a lot of time to think about the situation. Yan did a pretty good job, but just blocking the mottled Blue Empire's footsteps is not enough to make them retreat. We need a crushing victory to tell mottled Blue that the known universe is not a place for them to run wild. How are the God's fleet and expeditionary fleet assembled? After evaluating Yan's performance, Binghua turned to ask about the Justice World. Queen, the God's fleet and the expeditionary fleet have just completed their transformation. Secondly, the First Angel Legion has also been equipped with new armor that can resist spiritual attacks. Hearing this, Binghua put down his crossed legs, stood up from the throne, and walked out. In that case, I won't sit down here and tell Elan and the others that we will meet up in the Pocket Nebula. It's time to tell the mottled Blue Empire whose territory the known universe belongs to. Before Binghua finished speaking, his body sank into the opened micro-wormhole. Angel Prison, the lowest level. As the space blurred, Binghua walked out of the opened space wormhole. Oh, you actually have time to see me. It seems that Huaya has failed. Liang Bing was sitting on a chair behind the prison barrier. When he saw Binghua's figure appear, he closed the book he was writing on and looked up. It's been a long time since I saw Liang Bing. It seems you're quite used to staying here. Binghua waved her hand, and a seat emerged from the void. She sat on it and started chatting with Liang Bing through the energy barrier. Can you tell me what's happening in the universe recently? You know that I don't have any information channels when I stay here. Before you came to see me, there was only annoying silence and cold walls. Liang Bing behaves much calmer than he did hundreds of years ago, and no longer brings up the topic of evil and justice whenever they meet. Binghua felt a little sad when he saw Liang Bing like this. It seemed that Kesha's so-called imprisonment had some effect. Then Binghua briefly talked about the recent changes in the known universe. After a long time, Liang Bing sighed. My sister and I fought back and forth, but I never thought the final result would be like this. With the disappearance of evil, will justice not be able to survive alone? Hearing Liang Bing's words, Binghua said in a deep voice. It's not that justice cannot survive alone, it's just that the angelic civilization needs to change its way of living, and it can only abandon the justice that has become a shackle. But this does not mean that we completely give up on it. In the future, it will exist in our hearts instead of being followed as beliefs and rules. Hearing Binghua's words, Liang Bing laughed, but he couldn't stop laughing. It would be great if you became the king of angels 20,000 years ago, you were sensible enough, calm enough, and more tolerant of certain things. Hearing this, Binghua just remained silent. Time is the most cruel thing in the world. It will completely freeze everything that happened in the past and can no longer change it. So Liang Bing's words are destined to be impossible, and the mistakes she made will never be erased. After the two were silent for a long time, Liang Bing took the lead and broke the silence. Tell me, Why did you come to me? If you want to ask about demonic civilization, then forget it. After all, I am the founder of the demonic civilization and their main god, so I still have this responsibility. After hundreds of years of calmness and thinking, Liang Bing has also looked past some things, such as her fight with her sister Kesha, which actually means nothing in the end. If she could turn back time, she would choose to lead her demon civilization to leave the known universe, venture into the unknown starry sky, and build her own ideal country. I'm not looking for you because of the demonic civilization. After you were imprisoned in the angel prison, the Merlot heavenly court launched a long siege against them. Now, except for a few of your direct descendants, demonic civilization has long since disappeared in the known universe, and it will be difficult to come back again in the future. Binghua did not take the demon civilization without Liang Bing seriously, because just sending a god-level angel to lead the team could defeat the remnants of the demon civilization. As long as the remaining demons don't jump out to cause trouble in the future, Binghua won't bother to go specifically to find trouble for them, because her enemies are not comparable to demons. Then why do you come here to see me? I don't believe that you just think of my sister and come to me to reminisce. Liang Bing enjoys the feeling of communicating with Binghua, because this is a rare thing that can produce a little pleasure in her heart while being locked up here. I want your advanced research application materials and data on wormholes. Seeing that Liang Bing had said this, Binghua no longer concealed her purpose. Oh, do you think I will give it to you? Liang Bing was a little surprised, but then asked curiously. I don't know, if you give me the information, I will save more effort in the next war. Without your information, I can still defeat them, it just takes a little more effort. Binghua's expression remained normal, and his mood did not change much because of Liang Bing's words. Binghua, this is what I admire most about you. You can find any available means for your own purposes without any psychological burden, even if you are an angel trader like me. But my sister will only follow the justice she has formulated, turning from its creator into her slave, thus suppressing her own heart. After finishing speaking, Liang Bing pointed to a pile of books neatly stacked next to the bed and said, everything you want is there, just get it yourself. Binghua waved his hand, and the pile of books Liang Bing pointed to was swallowed up by the wormhole and appeared next to Binghua. Randomly pick up a book from it and open it to see some scrawled angel text. The content is some of Liang Bing's deductions and novel ideas about time and space technology. I hope you don't mind. After all, I didn't expect you to be interested in the knowledge I have, so I wrote a little sloppily. As for more details and accuracy, I cannot verify it in my current state, so you just have to make do with it. While speaking, Liang Bing raised his hands and gestured to the dark energy limiting shielding device on his wrist. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1089. Binghua stayed in the angel prison for several hours, chatting with Liang Bing about many topics, most of which were about past grudges. But later it turned into an academic discussion on time and space. Binghua was not proficient in time and space technology, but he did not have any basic knowledge. The difference between Binghua and Liang Bing in terms of time and space is that Liang Bing is more talented and can always come up with many complex and magical operations. During the academic discussion with Liang Bing, Binghua figured out the operating principles of the demon civilization's space-time wormhole array, as well as some relatively flexible and simple wormhole generation formulas. Interestingly, Liang Bing also researched void energy, but when Binghua captured her, her research on void had not yet been completed. But now Liang Bing has entrusted his unfinished research to Binghua, which is the space transfer achieved by using void technology. Carl only used the most basic application of this technology. According to Liang Bing's description, The reason for establishing this technology was that she wanted to achieve space transfer between planets. The reason for this idea is that the demon civilization has been wandering around in the struggle with the Merlot Heavenly Court. The demons urgently need a method that can make the Merlot Heavenly Court fearful, so as to gain valuable development time and space. The final product of this concept is extremely large-scale spatial pruning, transfer, and displacement. It is to transfer a small area of space to another planet millions of light-years away without changing the surrounding conditions. It can even directly transfer the planet of the hostile civilization and the small piece of space where it is located to the surface of the nearest star, thereby destroying the opponent. Liang Bing was very surprised that Liang Bing gave him all his money to give Binghua, and Liang Bing acted very free and easy about it. My obsession with space surpasses everything in this world, including beliefs and positions. This is why I don't care whether I cooperate with Carl to fight against Merlot Heaven. But now I am unable to conduct research on space and time. The only thing I can do is to deduce the space technology I have mastered over a long period of time and supplement some missing theories. So I'm asking you again, if there is a breakthrough in this technology, please tell me the details. Liang Bing's expression was solemn, without any intention of joking. When Binghua was considering whether to agree, Liang Bing said immediately, "Binghua, I don't know if you still remember, but you once said that you can help me twice, provided that it does not violate your principles and stance. This matter should not violate the above conditions. Just think of it as a favor to me, the angel who will spend the rest of his life here." Hearing this, Binghua also remembered that it was a period of physical war nearly 20,000 years ago that was so long that even her memory was a little blurry. Liang Bing came to support her across the countless light-year distance between the two star clusters, lobbying the Tianding stars and Sabata to rebel against the Titans on her behalf, and the condition was to help her twice. But since Liang Bing left Merlot Heavenly Court to establish his own demon civilization, the two have almost never interacted again, and this matter has been ignored. Unexpectedly, Liang Bing still remembers this matter. "I promise you, after Angel's time and space technology makes a breakthrough, I will let Angel make a copy of it and give it to you for review." Hearing this, a smile appeared on Liang Bing's face. Then it settled. "I wish you will gain something in your journey through time and space as soon as possible." Binghua stood up and stepped into the open space wormhole. The moment the wormhole was about to disappear, she turned around and saw Liang Bing on the other side nodding to her. Seeing Binghua disappear, Liang Bing put away the smile on his face and his expression became lonely. The days in Angel Prison were far more cruel than what she said, and they were also more torturing to her psychology. For hundreds of years she seemed to have been forgotten by all the angels, including her sister Kesha. No angel came to visit her. In fact, Kesha would come to visit often at first, but she stopped coming after being provoked by her words several times. During that time, Liang Bing longed for freedom as never before and tried every means to escape from here, but it had to be said that there was no possibility that the prison he 11 designed specifically for her could be opened from the inside. Over time, Liang Bing gave up and began to calm down his impatient heart. In fact, it was very effective. But a soul that longs for freedom cannot eliminate its desire for freedom no matter how much it suppresses itself. Sometimes Liang Bing can't help but think, is this the punishment for what he has done in the past? In the Pocket Nebula, facing the full line attack of the triangular swarm, except for the line led by the angels, the other lines suffered heavy losses. Of course, the triangle swarm is not much better off. They are also very troubled by the weapons of mass destruction that the Kamigawa civilization throws at every turn. Because the Kamigawa civilization would not say hello in advance when using this kind of weapon, the triangle swarm sometimes managed to devour a fleet, but the final explosion of the fleet always caused them heavy losses. This forced the triangle group to re-examine this war, find the best combat strategy, and optimize and upgrade their own fighting methods to avoid the constant occurrence of huge casualties. As the coalition forces and the triangle continued to fight, the coalition forces discovered the traps they had designed. As the confrontation between the two took longer and longer, the gains they made became lower and lower. Because the triangular creatures seem to be able to sense whether there are dark matter bombs or high-energy polymer substances inside the battleship. Faced with this kind of bombing ship, triangular settlements and large groups will no longer choose to approach, but will send a small number of triangular creatures to destroy it. Often, an exploding warship can only kill a dozen or so ordinary triangular creatures. Compared with the resources used to manufacture warship weapons, this is a huge loss. The large group of triangles that Yan led the Angel Legion to attack was crippled and chose to flee to the Edge Star Field. Fearing that he would be surrounded by a large group of triangles, Yan stopped his angel warriors who wanted to pursue the victory and chose to attack another group of triangles closest to him. Before the triangle group could adjust its attack route, Yan led the army to defeat 3 triangle groups, and the remaining triangle group finally chose to join the group. Faced with a large group of triangles whose size was several times larger than before, Yan did not attack blindly. Instead, he asked Len to lead a group of angel warriors and sky blades to bypass it and conduct reconnaissance in the Edge Star Field. The idea of the Triangle Chief Kunyan who reported to the group was to use the ultra-long-range strike method of the sky blade to slowly reduce their strength. However, as the large swarm of triangles entered the Park Nebula, there was not much time left for Yan and the coalition forces. And just when Yan was considering whether to lead the coalition forces to fight a head-on battle with the Triangle General Swarm, the news that General Binghua was coming to the Pocket Nebula made her immediately stop worrying about this matter. Because now their Angel King, Binghua, has absolute force. As long as she is in charge of dividing the triangular group, the casualties will be minimized. Binghua has such a reputation in the eyes of angels. This is a reputation she has earned through wars over thousands of years. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1090. With Yan's hope, Binghua arrived at the Pocket Nebula half a month later, and also brought part of the fleet of the Justice World and the scientific research angels of Merlot Heaven. The reason why Binghua wanted to bring the research angel to the Pocket Nebula was because after acquiring the Demon's wormhole array, Binghua also wanted to add this extremely flexible wormhole generation system to the Sky Blade. Compared with the wormholes that the Sky Blade itself needs to calculate in advance and maintain for a long time, the Devil's Micro Wormhole Transport Array is the best in the entire known universe in generating wormholes at close range. Angels have suffered great losses in the past, and their companions often lost their lives inexplicably before even seeing the enemy there. If Kesha's treasure house of sacred knowledge hadn't come online later, providing computing power support to all angels, allowing them to capture the wormhole generation signal to a certain extent, Merlot Heaven would have been dragged to death by the devil's tactics sooner or later. The reason why Binghua is interested in this system is because the wormhole generation array can quickly deploy troops on the battlefield, and it can also use the wormhole to transfer injured angels to a safe area for treatment. Although the Justice World also has similar and more convenient micro-teleportation technology, it is a pity that it cannot perform reverse teleportation without the assistance of teleportation facilities, which is very embarrassing. The wormhole generation device on the Sky Blade has the same shortcomings as the World of Justice. Although it can be generated on the battlefield, it is slow and the enemy will have already run away by the time the wormhole is generated. Therefore, the Sky Blade often only generates fixed wormholes connecting itself to facilitate the angel warriors to travel between the Sky Blade and other areas. As for Liang Bing's unfinished research, Binghua plans to use the sub-biological engine to see if it can be done. If it can be done, it will be another strategic level thing. But even Liang Bing himself has only developed it to the extent that it can only carry out local space transfer, so there is still a long way to go before large-scale space transfer. In this battle with the Triangle Group, Binghua planned to test the effect of Liang Bing's space displacement. Although it could only transfer a small area, it was a good start after all. Queen of Ice Flower, welcome to your visit. Your arrival will make the difficulties we face no longer difficult. Seeing Binghua walking out of the wormhole opened by the Sky Blade, Yan saluted and welcomed him. Behind him, a group of representatives from various civilizations also secretly looked at the famous King of Angels. Looking around, Binghua found no main gods from other civilizations. When he saw this, someone immediately stood up to explain. Reporting to the King of Angels, our main god is leading the army to block the large group of triangles, so we are unable to come to greet them. I hope the King of Angels will not blame them. It's okay. Our common goal is to eliminate the swarm of triangles. Since we are all on the front line, we should fulfill our responsibilities as the Lord God. Binghua waved his hand indifferently, and then led by Yan to one of the heavenly blades that was used as a palace, and sat on the main seat inside the main hall of the heavenly blades, with more than a dozen god-level angels below. They are the leaders of their respective heavenly blades and have the highest combat power. They are responsible for solving the troublesome existences among the large groups of triangles on the battlefield. What is the current situation of the battle? I have read your previous battle reports in Merlot Heaven. 3 of the 7 triangle groups have been severely damaged. The remaining 4 large groups absorbed the disabled group and continued to press toward the interior of the Pocket Nebula. Binghua first told the information he had learned and motioned to the angels present to supplement it. Yan and several of his colleagues looked at each other, took a step forward and began to add additional explanations. Queen Hiawa, currently we are using the range advantage of the Sky Blade to continuously weaken the swarm of triangles. But we don't have enough time and space to weaken the swarm of triangles to the point where they can be defeated in one blow. Because they are too close to the civilization of the Pocket Nebula, and if they occupy a few more planets in the Pocket Nebula, then the triangular body that has a base next will probably increase its troops. Yan told everything he knew. According to the information obtained from the Edge star field, the triangle needed a planet filled with abundant water resources as a base. Otherwise, it would be difficult for large groups of triangular bodies as living organisms to survive on a large scale in a galaxy and conduct interstellar voyages, because there would not be enough water resources to sustain their survival. This is a weakness of the evolution of biological systems, but at the same time, the evolution of organisms can bring a huge population to the triangle without expending massive resources for evolution. The only cost for their evolution is time. Have they gathered together? It's easy to annihilate them here. Binghua didn't pay attention to what Yan said about the large groups of triangles gathering together, making it difficult to attack. In fact, Binghua also understands Yan's concerns. A frontal attack does not mean that the triangle swarm cannot be defeated, but it will cost a lot of casualties. But as long as there is a war, there cannot be no losses. It is nothing more than being prepared to avoid avoidable losses as much as possible, and Binghua is here for this. Using her own strategic level force position as a breakthrough point, she defeated the entire triangle swarm, and then the Angel Legion and the coalition forces encircled and annihilated them. This is the best strategy to avoid a large number of casualties, and Binghua himself doesn't mind doing anything to facilitate this. Moreover, in addition to himself, the following Ran, Ai Lan, Hizui, etc. all have strategic weapon-level destructive power, including Yan himself. Don't look down on the third-generation gods of angels, but the opponents they faced in the past were also gods, so they couldn't express their power too intuitively. But I believe that the triangular creatures will be able to clearly understand how difficult it is to mess with the gods of the known universe. This is a creation that stands at the pinnacle of the 100,000-year-old Kamigawa technology system. After Binghua arrived at the Pocket Nebula, he quickly adjusted the strategy of the triangle swarm. The original strategy of surrounding but not attacking and slowly consuming them was modified. Instead, Binghua defeated them head-on, and the heavenly blades that had dispersed were recalled one after another to regroup into the heavenly blade battle group. Other civilizations in the coalition also assembled their elite troops, preparing to follow in the footsteps of the angels. They had no choice but to follow, even if they knew that this battle would be very risky, but the angel king Binghua personally went into battle. They had to risk their lives to keep up, otherwise they would easily be outsmarted by the pro-angel formation civilization in the future. Compared with the uneasiness of other civilizations in the coalition, Binghua, who was the protagonist of the upcoming battle, calmly issued instructions one by one and arranged the order of attack. The star field on the edge of the Pocket Nebula is a planetary system without civilization. This is the battlefield chosen by Binghua. In this way, he is not afraid of going too far and affecting the survival of civilization in the planetary system, or even destroying this planetary system if necessary. Not in the way either. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1091. In the unnamed planetary system marked as number 25378 in the Hayden star map, the Skyblade battle group and the main force of the coalition forces have gathered here and disappeared under the Angels' hiding technology. The reason why we chose this place is because although there is no civilization in this planetary system, there is a planet in the early evolution stage of a living planet. According to what the triangular creatures have done in the past, they will never give up on this planet with more than half of its surface covered by oceans. They will rapidly and violently transform the planet. Under the violent geological movements, the planet's land will soon be flooded on a large scale, and the environment in the sea will also change dramatically until it becomes suitable for triangular organisms. To the living environment. That's why Binghua decided to set the battlefield in this planetary system. One of his purposes was to see if the triangle was trapped. If they flocked to this planetary system in large numbers, there would be nothing to say. Just beat them. It would be better if a part of the triangular body group came to receive this planet. Using more to defeat fewer has always been the only way to win on the battlefield. Although this will cause the coalition forces to lose the first move in a sneak attack, with the advantage of range and firepower, it really doesn't matter whether they make the first move or not. On the seventh day after the coalition forces entered this unknown planetary system, the large group of triangles finally moved to the vicinity of this planetary system, and a small group of triangles sent to investigate discovered primitive life planets in the planetary system. The trianguloid swarm was extremely excited about this. For organisms like them, interstellar navigation was like a Kami River creature hiking across an endless desert. The oceans on living planets in the universe are oases. Therefore, discovering living planets in this remote star field on the edge of the Pocket Nebula is no less than seeing an oasis for a person who has traveled through the desert for a long time. Therefore, the total triangular body swarm was directly divided into two, with one part quickly rushing towards the interior of the planetary system, and the remaining half of the triangular body swarm spreading out a large number of triangular body biological teams outside the planetary system for reconnaissance. Binghua, who saw the scene through the heavenly blade and Kaisha's treasure house of sacred knowledge, rubbed his smooth chin. Unexpectedly, the triangle came to the rescue unexpectedly. Should we say that they were stupid or too naive? When they saw good things on the enemy's territory, they wanted to enjoy them immediately, and they were not afraid that this was a bait deliberately thrown out. However, this was in line with the coalition's combat objectives. Binghua asked Jingnan to issue orders to each fleet to prepare for attack through the command system constructed by Tianren. Binghua then transmitted the various response plans for this battle to Jingnan, because she, as the strongest combatant in the coalition, would also go into battle next. The position of command cannot be left without an angel. As an auxiliary officer, Jingnan is not good at fighting, so he can temporarily hand over the command to her. This is not because of how strong Jingnan's command skills are, but because the combat plans have been drawn up in advance, and every step has a response method. It can be said that anyone who is not a fool can do this well, and Binghua herself does not completely ignore it. When Jingnan encounters command difficulties, he can contact her to seek solutions. When the large swarm of triangular bodies ran near the only primitive life planet in the unnamed planetary system and began to pass through the somewhat thin atmosphere, preparing to transform the planet, the triangular body creatures on alert outside the atmosphere finally discovered an anomaly. That is the spatial fluctuation that they are extremely familiar with. In an instant, a triangular creature issued a warning, indicating that the enemy was transmitting information on the incoming wave band. But it was already too late. The reason why Binghua chose this planet in this planetary system as the battlefield was because the spatial coordinates here had been calculated long ago, and there was no need to spend too much time confirming it. As the space near the planet's atmosphere flickered, huge celestial battleships suddenly shuttled out of the void. A few seconds later, warships from other coalition civilizations also jumped over, occupying a small area of the starry sky. No matter how stupid the leader of the Triangle Swarm is, he knows that he has been ambushed by the Kamigawa civilization, so he immediately sends a message to another part of the Triangle Swarm outside the planetary system. But at this time, the Angel Coalition forces had launched an indiscriminate bombardment on the large group of triangles gathered together, without any regard for the planets behind them. Triangular creatures also react very quickly. They can avoid attacks from the overly powerful Skyblade that can destroy small planets. As for conventional artillery bombardments such as the Spear of Light, they are constructed from numerous triangles. The deflection magnetic field resists together. Every moment, triangular creatures were evaporated into nothingness in the energy beams fired from them. They wanted to fight back, but they couldn't reach the Angel Alliance. After this period of research, the Angel Legion has figured out the attack methods of the Triangle. Although the Triangle is very powerful, its lack of ultra-long-distance attack methods is a fatal weakness. Seeing that their large group members were continuously being unilaterally massacred by the Kamigawa army, the highly intelligent Triangle elites in the Triangle group could not sit still, because when the number of the large group was reduced to a certain level, they would also die. The large group of triangles that were originally in a defensive posture suddenly dispersed, covering the direction of the coalition forces like a large dark net. Seeing this, instead of being afraid, the coalition forces fought even more vigorously. Because the large group of triangles gave up their defense, they could take the opportunity to severely damage the large group of triangles. Just when the distance between the large group of triangles and the coalition forces had narrowed to an extremely dangerous distance, a small wormhole opened in the void in front of them. Then a dozen figures flew out from it, and the one in the middle was Binghua. She looked at the approaching group of triangles, her eyes full of indifference. The next second, Titan's hand armor covered Binghua's right hand, followed by a huge force field wave that swept across the starry sky. As if they had hit an invisible wall, a large area of triangular creatures flew backwards and stopped their charge. At the same time, shining waves of thunder and torrents of fiery energy swept out, and large areas of triangular creatures were buried in this extremely rare energy storm. But it is not that no triangle-shaped creatures survived the attacks of Ran, Yan, Alan, and the god-level angels. Dozens of triangular-shaped creatures that are much smaller than similar bodies are emitting waves of unknown meaning towards Binghua and other angels. Binghua knew without guessing that the content was definitely not about praising them for their good work. Be careful, these triangular creatures are not simple, don't be fooled. Binghua opened his mouth to remind the angels under his command, and after observing it, he chose the least triangular one and attacked directly. The blazing energy gathered around Binghua and turned into several bright spheres. Then these spheres were quickly stretched and shaped into spear shapes and flew out. The triangles who noticed the intensity of Ice Flower's attack dispersed instantly, and then the exploding energy spears directly swallowed the original area of the triangles. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1092. After Binghua made the first move, the surrounding god-level angels also swooped out and used flaming slashes to divide and seal off the triangle's movement space. Although the angels were slightly disadvantaged in terms of numbers, their momentum overwhelmed the triangle elites. However, soon the triangular elite evolved to the third generation, that is, the most evolved part began to show its power. The invisible strong magnetic field directly neutralized the incoming flaming slash, and then circles of unknown energy waves suddenly emitted from the three round black holes on the front of the triangular creature's head that looked like eyes. A god-level angel was accidentally covered by the attack of the triangle body, and immediately felt uncomfortable all over. His own dark energy began to drain rapidly. The divine body was undergoing uninterrupted attacks, and the energy was consumed extremely quickly. However, the reason why a god-level warrior is a god-level warrior is that he already has an indestructible body and a huge energy reserve that are beyond ordinary super warriors. Therefore, after realizing that it was not advisable to resist the attack of the triangle, the god-level angel quickly spread his wings and flew back to distance himself, and without hesitation, he launched a flame bombardment. The red energy was splashed out, leaving a slowly dissipating embers in the starry sky, and the triangular creature that was targeted was almost cut in half. The wound was glowing with traces of fire, and the remaining dark energy was continuing to erode. Dissolve the flesh and blood of the triangle. This is why Binghua brought the few god-level angels in the Angel Legion with him and ran to the front line. Ordinary third-generation angels may simply lose the power to resist and let themselves be slaughtered by the existence of the most evolved triangular body. At first, the highly evolved beings in the triangle could suppress the god-level angels by relying on their numbers. However, after Yan, Alan and other divine wing-level beings showed their power, the three generations of evolved beings in the triangle began to die one after another. The remaining ordinary second generation and ordinary evolved bodies can no longer suppress the spirit of the god-level angels. And right near them, the angel king Binghua was currently fighting with two triangle leaders. The impact of spiritual energy that was enough to affect the operation of part of the material world made Binghua frown. Fortunately, her 10,000 years of life were not in vain. Although she could not use her own brain waves to turn into spiritual energy, her tenacity was not comparable to that of ordinary angels. Although it is a bit uncomfortable, it is not unbearable. Seeing that mental attacks could not win, the leaders of the triangle group immediately changed their tactics, and one of them continued to use mental attacks to influence Binghua. The other one also began to use the innate ability of his race, the magnetic field, to control the force field crushed by the broken ice flower, and then emitted a special magnetic field band to affect the molecules within the attack range to destroy the stability of the ice flower's body. Fortunately, Binghua took advantage of the trick, and her body suddenly turned into a sacred atom, quickly moving to reassemble near the triangle leader who had been using mental attacks to influence her thinking. As soon as he stretched out his hand, the king's sword shuttled out from the void, and was grabbed by Binghua and slashed towards the nearby enemy. But the next moment, a magnetic field wave struck from the side and enveloped Binghua, halting her attack. At this time, the leader of the triangle, who was almost beaten by Binghua, also reacted and immediately distanced himself from Binghua again. Seeing that he had missed the opportunity, Binghua no longer persisted in the pursuit. He raised his hand to create a force field barrier to temporarily block the incoming magnetic field waves, and quickly escaped from the attack range of the triangle leader. It's quite sharp. There is nothing to be desired in the development of the brain through biological evolution. There was a touch of admiration in Hyuka's tone, because like the movement of sacred atoms, even in the civilization dominated by the Kamigawa technology system, only a handful of people can observe the existence of sacred atoms. and the leader of the triangular body group can detect it just by relying on the sensing ability of his highly evolved brain. This has to be said to be a different kind of miracle. After being nearly killed instantly by Binghua, the two leaders of the large group were obviously more cautious in their actions. They were not too far apart, otherwise they would not even have a chance to rescue each other. Queen, the large group of triangles outside the planetary system has moved towards our battlefield. According to their traveling speed, they are expected to arrive in an hour. Jing Nan's voice rang in Binghua's ears. Hearing this, he raised his eyebrows. The movements of the large group of triangles were really fast. It is impossible to completely annihilate the large group of triangles in front of them in 1 hour. At most, they will be defeated. Therefore, the coalition forces must move quickly, otherwise they will be flanked by two large groups one after another, and they will lose everything. Separate a part of the Sky Blade to carry out ultra-long-range star-destroying strikes against the large group of triangles entering the planetary system, delaying their progress for as long as possible. After Binghua gave the order, she looked at the leader of the triangular body and her eyes were no longer as leisurely and contented as before, because time no longer allowed her to play slowly with him. It was a pity that she had to collect combat data of the leader of the triangular body at this time. Opportunity. Binghua scanned the surrounding starry sky, and what caught his sight was a piece of floating asteroid fragments and two small satellites. After the brief confrontation just now, Binghua has figured out that facing the triangular leader who can control the magnetic field to a certain extent, the power of energy-based attacks will be greatly weakened. Her force field will be continuously dissipated as soon as it gets close to the opponent. It is difficult to gather enough to crush the opponent into pieces, so the way of using the force field control needs to be changed a little. The triangle leaders did not know what Binghua was thinking, but they agreed on one thing, that is, the god of the Kamigawa civilization in front of them was not at the same level as the weak gods they had encountered before. Whether it is to easily resolve their magnetic field wave attack, or to resist their combined mental attack, only their supreme ruler, the king with the highest degree of evolution, can do this in mottled blue. At this moment, they found the female god of the Kamigawa body that was confronting them. They suddenly stretched out their hands to grab the empty starry sky on one side, and a majestic torrent of energy spread out. This immediately made the two triangle leaders feel alarmed, and they quickly activated the magnetic field wave, intending to stop Binghua's behavior. But the void space in front of Binghua was rippled, a silver shield appeared, and the folded flying wings on both sides unfolded, resembling a sky blade that had been shrunk countless times. But as it unfolded its wings on both sides, a majestic barrier tens of meters high rose out of thin air, blocking the incoming magnetic field waves in front of Binghua. Although the barrier visible to the naked eye is constantly crumbling, this has delayed enough time for Binghua, because the dense sea of asteroids has been pulled over by her from the distant starry sky. Only then did the leader of the triangles know Binghua's plan, but it was already too late. The densely packed small stars that collided at extremely high speeds were directly submerged into the large group of triangles. The angels who followed Binghua to the front line had already received Binghua's warning and moved back some distance to avoid the area where the asteroid impact wave was densest. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1093. Asteroids of different sizes are carrying terrifying kinetic energy and passing through the large group of triangular bodies. Ordinary triangular body creatures cannot avoid the asteroids that come like a tide. They are not smashed into pieces on the spot. It was just that I didn't know where I was flying. Only a few highly evolved elites among the triangles escaped from the large group of triangles first, thus avoiding being submerged in the wave of asteroids brought by the ice. But even so, nearly half of the triangle elites were lost, because the triangle's so-called mental strikes and magnetic field manipulation could not have much effect on the asteroids that collided with huge kinetic energy. The coalition forces saw that Binghua, the king of angels, showed his power and severely damaged the Triangle group. Their morale was rising slowly. With such a true god here, how could they lose this battle? After the wave of asteroids passed, the large group of triangles suffered heavy losses. Binghua's casualties were greater than the total casualties caused by the previous coalition bombing. The remaining triangular creatures can no longer organize the previous star-blocking offensive. They are sparsely scattered in the starry sky in front of the coalition forces. The only pity is that the primitive life planet behind the triangle has also been affected by the asteroid tide just now. At this moment, the atmosphere is filled with clouds and mist caused by high temperatures and volcanic ash erupted by huge geological changes. It is like a scene of purgatory. Without Binghua's order, Jingnan, who acted as the commander in the Skyblade, issued the order for a general attack. In an instant, the Angel Legion, the coalition's small and medium-sized warships, and fighter planes came out and pounced on the triangular creatures that were no longer able to maintain a large group of formations. Binghua did not rush into the large group of triangles following the angels passing nearby, but instead stared at the two injured triangle leaders. Angel, Queen, Y, protect, these, weak. Mottled blue, angels, can, coexist. The slightly injured leader of the triangle suddenly spoke a very incoherent Kamigawa language. Oh, you can also speak the Kamigawa language. I always thought you invaded the known universe because you didn't understand anything. Now it seems that you have been studying our known universe for more than 10,000 years. Binghua was no longer in a hurry to attack, and started chatting with the leader triangle instead. In the physical war more than 10,000 years ago, the Kamigawa civilization needed to decipher the other party's language information if it wanted to communicate with the triangular creatures. But now Triangle has also learned the Kamigawa language in reverse, which is enough to show that the other party has never forgotten the known universe. Angel, Queen, you, we, coexist, the universe. Coexistence. It's not impossible. You go back and tell your king to surrender to the angels and swear to become affiliated with the angelic civilization. This is the prerequisite for coexistence. If your king feels that this condition is a bit harsh, you can change it to another one. You all withdraw from the known universe. We angels and mottled blue each take charge of our own territory, and no one interferes with the other. Binghua joked, obviously not thinking that the conditional triangle he proposed was acceptable, and the fact was just as Binghua thought. Angel, has no sincerity, mottled blue, angel, war. The leader of the triangle also heard from Binghua's words that the other party had no sincerity in peace talks. War? This is your choice. I hope you Mamalan will not regret your decision now. After the words fell, Binghua took action. Several asteroid fragments that had been quietly pulled nearby during the conversation suddenly squeezed towards the leader of the triangle under the pull of the force field. The two triangular leaders immediately dodged to avoid the center of the asteroid fragments, but only one escaped, and the other was dragged in place under the pressure exerted by Binghua's raised hand. The next moment, dozens of large and small asteroid fragments covered the body of the leader of the triangle. As Binghua clenched his 5 fingers, the size suddenly shrank by a circle. Another triangle leader originally wanted to rescue his compatriots, but the rapidly weakening mental power of his compatriots told him that his compatriots were dead and there was no value in further rescue. The triangle elites in other areas also died, and a large number of triangle warriors were divided and eliminated by the Kamigawa coalition forces. It can be said that his large group has no possibility of victory and retreat, so the leader of the triangle raised his head and sent out a wave of unknown meaning. As the wave band spread, the triangular-shaped creature that was fighting madly with the coalition forces suddenly turned around and ran away. The coalition forces were overjoyed to see this and began to pursue it. Due to the sudden retreat of the large group of triangles, the coalition forces were eager to pursue them, so the formation originally used for firebombing was inevitably stretched. Jingnan quickly contacted his queen to tell her the status of the coalition forces at this time. Binghua originally wanted Jingnan to order the coalition forces not to pursue blindly, but a new idea suddenly came to his mind. Binghua used his brain that could perform multi-threaded calculations to quickly formulate a new combat plan and transmitted it to Jingnan. Jingnan, who read the new battle plan, was a little surprised by the imagination of his queen, but he had to say that the new plan was very well thought out, and even if it failed, the coalition would not suffer much loss. The original order requiring all the coalition forces to reorganize their formations was modified to drive away the defeated troops of the triangular group, and the target was the other half of the triangular group that was rushing towards here. At the same time, the captains of the coalition forces have received part of the newly formulated combat plan, understood the angel civilization's next plan, and began to restrain their troops from rushing indiscriminately. On the other side, Binghua let go of the triangle leader and let him go back to deliver the message. At the same time, Binghua prepared to repeat his old tricks and began to use the force field to gather the scattered asteroids and their fragments for easier control. At the same time, Binghua took out several sealed small mimic stars from his arsenal, and then began to extract the energy from them, creating a miniature star with a diameter of several hundred meters nearby. Binghua then connected with Seminary and began to run the space displacement formula obtained from Liang Bing, and made some minor modifications based on the operating conditions to make it more suitable for secondary biological engine driving. But Binghua soon discovered that the composition of the space replacement formula was too complicated and was not very applicable in combat, because it required a long time to calculate and transfer the two spaces. But now there happens to be a test object, which is another large group of triangles pouring into the planetary system. According to the results calculated by Kesha's Sacred Knowledge Treasure House, Binghua set the target area of the space replacement at the certain area of the large group of triangles. On the way, the target of replacement is the manufactured microstar. If such a huge energy aggregate can be easily replaced, then Binghua will invest a lot of resources in this technology. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1094. The large group of triangles that were originally located outside the unnamed planetary system have now entered the interior of the planetary system while advancing at full speed. Although their speed is already fast enough, the distance between the planets is there, and coupled with the previous fire harassment from the Skyblade, the large group of triangles is still some distance away from the retreating large group of triangles. However, as Tianren gave up fire harassment, it was only a matter of time before the large group of triangles merged with their own defeated troops. Compared with the eagerness of the large group of triangles, the coalition forces are very high-spirited. No matter how frustrated they were before the arrival of the Angel King Binghua, they feel so happy now. Soon the time came to an hour later, and the large group of fleeing triangles finally sensed their large group of compatriots and sent out joyful band messages one after another. But just when the two were about to join together, the coalition forces that were originally driving them away from behind the large group of fleeing triangles moved slower and slower, and gradually distanced themselves from them. Before the large group of triangles that had escaped here could describe to their compatriots how the Kamigawa creatures launched a shameless sneak attack on their group, a space wormhole that had long been anchored here suddenly began to form. The next second, Binghua's figure floated out, her long black hair flying behind her, and her unfolded white wings emitted a trace of holy brilliance under the radiance of stars. But this is not the case in the perception of the large group of triangles. In their perception, Binghua is an extremely terrifying energy aggregate. Coupled with the fluctuations in space behind it, this gave the leader of the large group of triangles a bad premonition, because compared to their modeled Blue Empire, the Kamigawa creatures undoubtedly have more offensive methods. Space jump is a problem that they have not been able to solve so far. Otherwise, why would they have gathered together in large groups like they are now? It is because they are afraid that the opponent will concentrate their superior forces and use the maneuverability of space jump to defeat them one by one. However, within Mottled Blue, there are already compatriots who are evolving in this direction. I believe that soon they, Mottled Blue, will also be able to master the ability to travel through space. By then, they will be able to compete with the Kamigawa civilization in terms of space jumps. Binghua looked down at the triangle-shaped creatures that almost surrounded her without any fear. Although the mental attacks they unleashed together could make her unable to eat and walk around, she would not be stupid enough to stay here with a whole group of triangle-shaped creatures. Hard fight. Because the mental blows of a triangular creature are different from attacks in the general sense and can be accumulated infinitely. Even if her spirit is strong, she cannot compete with the mental power of millions of triangular creatures. I would like to say hello to you and give you a gift. Take it, may this heat burn you all. Binghua raised her arms upwards, spread her fingers, and her voice contained a hint of malice. Then the space of several hundred meters with her as the center came to a standstill as if it had condensed. Then, as if the frame had been lost, the ice bloom and the few triangles that entered the area disappeared, replaced by a sphere hundreds of meters in diameter that was as bright as a star, emitting infinite light and heat. The moment this sphere appeared, the triangular creatures that were close to it twisted and struggled under the ultra-high temperature. Their bodies quickly lost water and shriveled up, and finally burned into ashes. The triangular creatures that were far away quickly moved away. However, if Binghua spent so much effort and did not hesitate to use himself as a space displacement anchor to send the miniature mimic star that only had so much power, then he might as well send a few dark matter bombs instead. Why bother to make a mimic star? The mimic stars that appeared in the large group of triangles had just escaped the control of the ice bloom. The force field on the surface had not completely dissipated, but only released part of its own light and heat. But as the ice bloom completely let go of its control, the mimic star began to become unstable. After all, the reason why the name of a pseudo-star has the word mimic is because it cannot exist alone as stably as a real star. It is just a ball of high-energy matter that simulates the structure of a star. Without the maintenance of the manufacturer, it will soon be destroyed. Collapse. But the reason why it has the word star in its name is because the consequences of its collapse are very similar to that of a real star, which is nothing more than a difference in the scope of destruction. The surface of the pseudo-star, which originally showed a perfect spherical shape, began to undulate, the high-temperature ionic material inside began to leak outward, and the whole began to expand rapidly. Finally, it suddenly exploded and turned into a brilliant cosmic flower, throwing countless ultra-high-temperature plasma fluids toward the surrounding space. The large group of triangles was already quite dense, and nearly one-third of the members of the large group were affected and annihilated in the raging ultra-high-temperature ion flow. This is much more powerful than ordinary weapons of mass destruction. In addition, being caught off guard, the triangle group suffered a big loss. The large group of triangles that had just left the area filled with large amounts of high-temperature matter and ultra-high-temperature plasma clusters had not yet reorganized their formation. In the distant starry sky, meteorites and asteroids of various sizes were approaching with long trails. Attacks that can be called cosmic natural disasters followed one after another. The triangle encountered unprecedented targets in this planetary system, and nearly half of the total group consisting of 4 large clusters was lost. When the Angel Civilization's Skyblade battle group and the Coalition's massive fleet completed the initial blockade of the Triangle group and launched the final attack, they found that the Triangle group, which they had been afraid of before, was no longer able to make the usual moves. Resistance. The death of a large number of command-class triangles made the large group of triangles a little chaotic. The triangle elites wanted to coordinate the large group operations, but their abilities were completely insufficient. After all, their number was too small. Binghua did not participate in the final encirclement and suppression of the triangle group, but chose to return to his flagship Skyblade and look down on the entire battlefield from a global perspective. Generally speaking, the battle was so-so. Although they won the victory, the casualties of the coalition forces cannot be ignored. Even the Angel Legion suffered losses. In addition, there are a large number of warships in need of repair after the war. It is estimated that the heavy logistical maintenance will make it impossible for the coalition forces to organize such large-scale operations for quite some time. This made Binghua, who originally wanted to take the opportunity to attack the Edge star field and compress Mamaland's power in the known universe, temporarily put aside this idea. Thinking of this, Binghua couldn't help but miss the army of the Justice World under his command. Compared with the coalition forces of the known universe, the endurance of the Expeditionary Legion of the Justice World is undoubtedly much stronger and can support continuous and arduous battles. However, the current main target of the Justice World is the United Empire. In the latest log of Tianjian, Binghua saw the latest research report of the Justice World Expeditionary Corps on the United Empire. This civilization that seems to be broken at a touch does not seem to be as weak as imagined. So far, the righteous world seems to be fighting their servant army. As for the real army of the United Empire, the Justice World has not obtained any useful information. It only knows that among the eliminated troops of the United Empire, a special type of individuals with no arms and legs, resembling larvae, and powerful psychic abilities were discovered. They were called by those civilizations as an agent. However, according to the report of the Expeditionary Corps, they did not successfully capture the living agents. The other party seemed to be able to predict the coming danger and relocate themselves in advance. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1096. Pocket Nebula, the headquarters of the coalition forces. After half a month of siege, the invasion of the Pocket Nebula by a large group of triangles was destroyed. In order to prevent the coalition forces from attacking their current base camp in the known universe, the three large groups that originally headed towards the Nadar system chose to return. Seeing this, Binghua lost the idea of launching an attack, but it could also be seen from this that Mottled Blue's troops were not as abundant as imagined. Of course, Binghua would not be so naive as to think that this was all Mottled Blue's troops. It would be ridiculous for an empire with power spread across a star cluster to really only have such a small number of troops. It's just that Mottled Blue hasn't concentrated its forces yet, or there are problems within the star cluster where they are located, otherwise their actions wouldn't be so slow. But all this requires entering the star cluster where Mottled Blue is located in the future to figure it out. Any results obtained now are just groundless speculations. Queen, representatives of the Kalan civilization and the Moran civilization asked the angels when they would launch an attack on the large group of triangles entrenched in the Edge star field. Jingnan walked into the room where Binghua was and asked softly. Binghua didn't immediately answer Jingnan's question, but stretched out his hand to signal to sit down and talk. Don't worry about them, they are just looking for you to find out from you the next movements of our angelic civilization. It will probably be quiet for a while. Both us and the triangle need time to prepare for the next battle. Binghua said as he stood up and walked to the window of the room. Behind the transparent crystal wall was a dark and quiet sky with twinkling stars. Looking at the starry sky that he had watched countless times, Binghua raised the tea in his hand and took a sip. Go and transfer the company of soldiers who are staying in China in the Chaiwa star system. It would be overkill to stay there with their abilities, they might as well shine on the battlefield of physical war. The Xiangbing company that Binghua mentioned was naturally the Xiangbing company that separated from the Divine State's combat sequence and merged into the God's throne world. Although the Xiangbing company was established less than a fraction of the time of the Divine Guards and the Demigod Legion, its strength cannot be ignored. Because the commanders and deputy commanders of the Xiangbing Company are respectively the third-generation god Galaxy Power and the Nyoxing god of War, and each of them has several elite troops established with the help of the Justice World. One of them is a righteous knife force based on the super gene of the Noxian sharp knife, which plays the role of vanguard in the heroic company. The other is a sniper unit based on Kylan's Kamigawa sniper super gene to cooperate with the Blade of Justice in combat. The reason why these two super genes were chosen as the basic unit composition of the Xiangbing Company is that although the upper limit of these two genes is not high, they are formed quickly and have strong functionality. Compared with the development of a new super gene, Nyoxing Sharp Knife and Kamigawa Sniper have gone through a long test of time and have proven their effectiveness. Paired with the exclusive light armor designed for it by Makra and the Fanshan Academy of Sciences in the World of Justice, the paper data of the Xiangbing Company soldiers once exceeded that of the elite army. However, unlike the elite regiments that use heavy armor to break through and charge forward, most of the equipment of the Xiangbing Company is relatively close-fitting and lightweight armor, suitable for the task of rapid penetration and annihilation. Such a well-equipped and powerful force stays in the Chaiwa star system counting stars every day. This is naturally an extreme waste of resources. That's why Binghua transferred them to the Park Nebula and the modeled Blue Triangle. The front line of confrontation. When the war between the Pocket Nebula and the Triangle was victorious and entering a short rest period, the situation in the Styx galaxy was a bit not good. Your Majesty the Goddess Rena. You can't kill all the void creatures no matter what. If you don't find a way to destroy the large passage connecting the void world, our Sun army will be devoured by them sooner or later. A Liang general knelt on one knee below Dilana and said sadly. In fact, in the recent war, the Liang army was so desperate, because no matter how bravely they fought against the enemy did not decrease at all. This dealt a huge blow to the morale of the front-line Liang fleet and the Liang Legion. After all, the Liang civilization had not fought such a tragic large-scale war for more than 10,000 years after the physical war. On the other hand, void creatures are as fierce as crazy demons and are not afraid of death. They like to drag Liang's small space fighters and warships to the underworld together, which makes Liang, which has a relatively small population, very difficult to deal with. After the theocratic meeting, Liang deliberately used the Liang Heavenly Order he had established to recruit many high-quality troops from his affiliates to supplement consumption. But in the Styx galaxy, where the stalls are getting bigger and bigger, all this manpower is thrown in, and it can only barely maintain the situation, like putting a layer of cement on the wall that is about to collapse. Dilana, who was sitting on the throne, looked confused and didn't know what to do. Pan Zhen, who had closed his eyes to rest, opened his eyes at this moment. At this point, Liang civilization is no longer able to maintain the situation alone. It's time for Lena to make a choice. There was a hint of encouragement in Pan Zhen's serious voice, and he handed the right to decide the future into Dilana's hands. In response to Pan Zhen's reminder, Dilana rarely hesitated. She was no longer the sun goddess who could turn an entire planet into scorched earth without hesitation. After decades of fighting together with the Liang army and the influence of Liang civil servants, Dilana has begun to care about the influence of Liang civilization on the outside. Although the changes in the Styx galaxy are inseparable from Liang, there is no need for Liang to fight with the void creatures here. After all, their base camp is far away in the Shenhe-Tiandeo galaxy. Even if the Styx turns into a paradise for void creatures, what will be lost will only be the interests of the beasts and a few civilizations in the Styx galaxy, and the core interests of Liang will not be touched at all. Dilana stopped the chaotic thoughts in her mind and looked at Pan Zhen, who had closed his eyes again and rested like a sculpture, and General Liang, who was waiting for her order. In the end, Dilana still did not make a decision. On the grounds that she needed some time to think, she asked General Liang to continue to maintain the defense line and suppress the void creatures that wanted to rush out of the eye of the void area. After General Liang left, Dilana looked at Pan Zhen for help, and her meaning was self-evident. Feeling Dilena's gaze, Pan Zhen's straight spine bent slightly, no longer like a sculpture, stuck there. Lena, you have become the king of Liang, and I am just the general of Liang. Only the king can serve as his ministers, so there is a principle in which ministers can serve as ministers to the king. General Pan Zhen, I don't know what to do. If I order Liang to withdraw from the river Styx, Liang will no longer have any prestige in the known universe. But if they don't retreat, Liang's warriors will continue to be devoured by void creatures. Dilena crossed Pan Zhen and left the main hall, staring at the giant void crack in the distant starry sky that looked like an eye through the shield of the sky. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 1097. Lena, the prestige of Liang civilization and the lives of Liang people, who should be chosen, can only be decided by you, the main god. And I can only help you reduce some mistakes so that you can lead Liang further. Pan Zhen came behind Lena and said in a deep voice, as the regent of Liang, Pan Zhen has great rights. But as Pan Zhen said himself, after all, he was just a minister, not a king. He could only let Liang maintain the status quo, but could not forge ahead. Not to mention the constraints placed on him by Liang's civil servants and elders, the mere fact that he could not use all the computing power of the Tiandao Tower was a huge restriction on him. Otherwise, as the regent of Liang, he would not have been able to deal with a little demon monkey in China thousands of years ago without any auxiliary computing power. Since the birth of Lena, Pan Zhen has relied on Lena's influence to achieve many things that were not achieved before, but Lena succeeds and loses with Lena. Liang's civil service system quickly supported Dilena to the throne, using the influence of Liang king to weaken his influence as the regent. After hundreds of years of fighting, Pan Zhen was restricted to the position of general, the military commander of Liang, and it was no longer convenient for him to interfere with other departments of Liang's civilization. Of course, this is the result of Pan Zhenjin following the rules of the game. Otherwise, with the Liang army, the most violent machine in Liang, he could easily make those civil servants kneel in front of him and call him daddy. In fact, Dilena had great trust in Pan Zhen, and Pan Zhen still held the power of Liang. However, as Dilena gradually grows up, Pan Zhen is gradually releasing the power in his hands, allowing Dilena to truly lead Liang civilization. In fact, it is not just the Liang civilization that does not want to fill the Styx galaxy with people, including Gulans, Thunderblade, and other civilizations that have just become their tributaries. They also do not want to waste their precious combat power on fighting with them. The unreachable Styx galaxy. The heavenly order of Liang is very different from the original order of justice of angels. The idea is that the participants will establish themselves in the known universe under the leadership of Liang, the suzerain civilization, so that everyone can live in peace and harmony, and Liang will also become one of these civilizations. God, the judge of all matters. In the final analysis, the affairs of the Styx galaxy are Liang's own affairs. The civilization of Liang Tiandao does not care whether it can solve the void creatures of Styx. Although the Liang civilization can force them to go to the Styx to resist the void creatures, this has a limit. When the casualties and costs exceed a threshold, these civilizations are likely to have second thoughts. After all, there are still existences in this universe that can compete with the Liang civilization. Hey, Binghua, what's wrong? Don't you welcome me, sister? Hexi landed on the platform of Binghua's flagship and greeted Binghua with a smile. How is that possible, Sister Hexi? Binghua and Hexi hugged each other, then separated and walked side by side towards the temporary palace of the King of Angels. Jingnan and other angels followed beside them. Binghua did not invite too many angels, nor did Binghua choose to hold a meeting in the main hall. Instead, he led Hexi to his residence. Sister Hexi, why do you have time to come to the front line in person? I remember not long ago you complained to me that you didn't have time to do research. Do you think I have too much time now? I'm going to come over and play triangle with my sister. Binghua joked after sitting down, but Hexi didn't pay attention to Binghua's weird words. You don't understand this. As the saying goes, there is a certain degree of relaxation. Sister, I just finished my work and came to your place to relax. If you hold my sister here, the angels in the scientific research department will say in their hearts that you, the king of angels, are not good enough. Hexi said with a smile, but the verbal exchange between the two ended with Binghua changing the topic first. How is the progress of MalePioneer? Judging from the information you sent before, it seems that you have brought the first batch of prototypes this time. Binghua asked about the topic he was most concerned about. Hexi did not answer immediately after hearing this, but instead gestured to his students Hickson. Queen, please see the detailed data of the MalePioneer generation. While Xian spoke, a light screen was projected, which showed a humanoid body covered with gorgeous armor full of angelic aesthetics. After roughly looking at various data, Binghua had a rough impression of the combat effectiveness of MalePioneer. Since Merlo Heavenly Court has no previous experience in using this kind of humanoid autonomous weapon, the first batch of 100,000 units are just prototypes. I intend to improve the Vanguard generation based on their performance on the battlefield until it can adapt to the war with the mottled blue. He 11 did not put his words too fully. Strictly speaking, there is no civilization in the known universe that has the experience to control autonomous combat weapons. Because the celestial computer proposed by the Super Seminary once made all civilizations know that if they want to develop intelligent autonomous weapons, they must solve the problem of celestial computer intrusion, otherwise they will be siding with the enemy. Moreover, the MalePioneer generation also used some technologies that Hexi didn't know much about. According to the information she got from Binghua, it was technology from Semialo, the Eternal Ascender. This gives MalePioneers a combat power that is comparable to that of the second-generation super warriors from the beginning. With their fearlessness of life and death and the various gadgets they carry, the second-generation super soldiers may not be able to defeat a MalePioneer in a duel. Binghua didn't think as much as Hexi thought, and she wasn't prepared to let Hexi create a self-disciplined weapon comparable to a god from the beginning, because she had experience in Samaro's executor-level transformation and knew how powerful this thing was. Resource. Moreover, compared to the mechanical warriors that Semialo had already designed, the MalePioneer designed by Hexi fully integrated the Angel's energy circuit technology. In addition to being as flexible as ordinary super warriors, it is also equipped with a dark energy cutting mode melee weapon similar to the flaming sword and the standard flame bombardment. For defense, it uses the most cost-effective rechargeable armor. Although the shape is quite gorgeous, it does not affect the combat effectiveness of MalePioneer, and Binghua doesn't care much about it. After chatting with Hexi for a while, Binghua went to see the actual MalePioneer under the leadership of Hexi. Nearly 2 meters tall, with a well-proportioned body that is neither bloated nor thin, the body is covered with silver-gray frosted armor that fits closely together, giving it an extraordinary aura. Its left and right wrists are equipped with foldable war blades and small dark energy rail guns. The armor on the chest opens to reveal a special launcher filled with flame bombardment. It usually takes time to recharge, and it cannot use flame bombing like the Angel Warriors, but the firepower is enough. Compared with mass-produced humanoid combat weapons, the appearance of the MalePioneer in certain civilizations is more like a guard of the gods that shows the majesty of the civilization's main god. After so many years, Hexi still has not gotten rid of the problem of spending time on the appearance of his research results. However, Binghua was not qualified to ask He 11 why she wanted to make the appearance of MalePioneer so flamboyant, because she also often struggled with the appearance of her weapons.